to The Hub on Hollywood. I'm James.
I'm Jamie.
And we love movies!
At least we used to, James.
At least we used to. We've experienced some trauma. We've gone through some trauma, and we're trying to bring back the light of joy that was in our hearts.
It's flickering.
The joy of Star Wars.
The flickering in my soul of, yes, we need hope.
Yeah.
James, we just need some hope. And that is, I feel, what was lacking in this final installment, this final movie of all Skywalker movies.
Yeah.
The Rise of Skywalker, which apparently had nothing to do with Skywalker. Anyways,
so we're going deep.
We're going deep. We're going to take a deep dive. Spoiler review. We're talking about the Rise of Skywalker. It's been 2 weeks or so since we saw it. We're back from the holidays. Yes.
And we could dive deep into it. By now, you should have seen it. So
yeah, I think at this point I can talk about it without crying, without angry crying, but no guarantees.
No guarantees.
No guarantees.
Well, just hold on to your Kylo Ren, your Ben Solo, who has been redeemed.
Yes, and then we have Rey is here.
Yes.
Also, she needs some more consoling than I, and that's what the Porg is for.
Yeah.
The
so
Porg is here, so we're ready.
So
to talk about this.
So, yeah, I haven't shared this publicly on any social media or really with anybody else that much, but we've shared our initial thoughts to each other, and we both, unlike The Last Jedi, where you loved it and I hated it, hate's a strong word, but I really didn't like it, unlike that, we both agree.
We're both disappointed,
We're both
James.
disappointed with the Rise of Skywalker and the end of this saga.
And the end of this saga that makes absolutely no sense. And leaves you with no excitement, no, very neutral, I think is the way that you put it. Yeah,
so whenever, because during The Last Jedi, I remember, The Force Awakens, so let's rewind a little bit. When that came out, I felt rejuvenated, I felt there was a lot of hope, and I was eager to see where the new trilogy was going to be going, and I felt excited. The Last Jedi came out, I watched it twice, I left with the same feeling of disappointment. I left the theater after watching The Rise of Skywalker, and I left feeling neutral. I really felt blah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the end of all, the end of the trilogy of all trilogies should not leave you feeling blah.
No.
It shouldn't leave you with just a what? And I feel like that was the feeling in the entire theater.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Return of the Jedi where everybody's like, yeah, and you're left with hope and inspiration and you feel like you've got this real complete story and your imagination is just bursting like fireworks. And I feel like they kind of killed it. They killed
Not in
the
a good
hope.
way. Not in a good way.
Not in the good way. They killed that imagination. They killed that hopeful feeling, and they left you with just question marks and scratching your head. And everyone around me was like, "What? Why?"
Yeah.
We're asking questions, and they didn't seem very excited or pumped or hopeful.
No.
J.J. Abrams at one point, before this abomination came out, it's not an abomination. There were some things we liked.
Yeah.
But before the movie came out, J.J. Abrams said that any good Star Wars movie is about love and hope. And I think they killed both of those things in this film. And I don't understand why, because everything leading up to this, it made me hopeful that maybe JJ saw what needed to be done in this story, and instead we got a hodgepodge of what felt like very corporate decisions and a story that doesn't make sense together. So let's why don't you kick us off with some of our... We're going to go through the film, beginning to end. Again, spoiler alert. Go see it.
And then comment and let us know how you think. But first off, as I mentioned, I felt very neutral leaving the movie theater. But right from the beginning, I knew I got an idea that it wasn't going to go or end the way that I hoped. Just for the very fact that at the very beginning, literally the first three words, like what were the initial words? The death speak, or the death,
the
or
dead speak,
the dead speak,
the dead speak,
And as soon as that said, that started the next 10 minutes of exposition. I felt there was so much exposition because again, like what Rian Johnson had done for The Force Awakens with The Last Jedi by pretty much saying, all those things you thought were important, they're not important. I feel like that's what JJ did with Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi, basically saying everything that happened in that movie, in that previous movie, didn't matter, and this is what I would have done. And so this movie felt very divided in two ways. In one, I felt that the first half of this movie should have been, or not should have been, but is what J.J. Abrams imagined what Episode 8 was supposed to be.
Right.
And so so the first movie was the first half of Episode 8, and then the second half of the Rise of Skywalker was the ending that he really wanted. But again, to get to that ending, he had to tell you, hey, all of these things happened off screen. And you're going to have to just accept it and roll along with it. If not, then you're not going to be on board.
Yeah. The exposition was such a waste.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like there was so much that they could have used in a much smarter way. Like, okay, you weren't that thrilled with the way that The Last Jedi panned out. There was still a lot of great things there that could have been used. But I feel like the early interactions between Rey and Kylo Ren, instead of them being like a deep dive between these two characters that still have this incredibly rare connection, and one is evil and the other one is fighting for the resistance, and really turning that into something powerful and deep and meaningful, you're forcing exposition out of Ben's mouth, out of Kylo Ren's mouth, that is completely wasted.
Yeah.
And what I mean by this specifically, which is my very first major problem with this film, is, we were talking about retconning, Rey Palpatine.
Rey Palpatine, yeah.
Rey Palpatine. Tell me your initial thoughts, and then I'm going to go on my rant, okay?
Well, at first I thought, that idea of Rey being a Palpatine would be so forced and so out of nowhere, out of left field, because again, unnecessary, because we had seen Rey shown anger in the previous two movies, and so we know that she's also on this fine line, just as Ben Solo is or was. There was no hint or indication, even though she did show anger. Many Jedi show anger, and
anyone who is dealing with being a human being, you balance the dark and the light aspects of yourself, and I think that plays in beautifully with the lore and the like the theology of what the Force is.
Yeah.
And I think every character connects with that. You don't have to be related to one of the main, original series characters in order for that to play. That was, I think, what was the beauty of The Last Jedi, was the way that it was written, was it touched on themes that could impact everyone, that can affect everyone. But when you start giving characters like this identity and this, the only reason this is important for you is because you're a Palpatine or something like that, you're excluding the audience. And there was no reaction. I don't know if there was a reaction in your theater.
No, I mean, I think not that we saw it coming, but it was one of those things that when it was revealed, I wasn't entirely surprised, just because of, again, at that point in the movie, we have already just been force fed what we should just accept as, this is the case, so accept it, or else you're not gonna move along with us. So when that happened, it's like, okay, my initial thought was, that's dumb. That's dumb. That makes no sense.
There was zero reaction in the audience.
Yeah.
There was not a tither. There was not a gasp or anything, because it didn't impact us, and it didn't really impact the character other than to make her confused.
Yeah.
And it had no impact.
It may have had more impact if Palpatine was already introduced, maybe in the last movie, if we had gotten hints that he was back, and then and Rey was more well aware of Darth Sidious and everything that he's been behind.
Yeah.
But Rey only really interacted with Palpatine for what, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
She met him for the first time, and then a minute later he goes, "Oh, you're my granddaughter."
And all he does is exposit at her too.
Yeah.
Which was a huge waste opportunity. But no, I think what we got as far as challenges for the Rey character, the most terrible thing that she could have faced or heard from anyone was that she was indeed a nobody, and that no one cared for her, and that she only had herself to rely on, and that she had to pick yourself up and build from that. And I think that speaks to humanity. That speaks to so many people. And it was so in line with reality. It was so in line with the character. People were angry about it because you could feel the disappointment. You could feel her disappointment. And I think that was the most challenging thing that character could have faced.
And it would be a really good parallel to Kylo Ren or Ben Solo, because again, Ben, he grew up his
with
whole
everything,
life
with the legacy,
with of having to live up to his uncle, to his grandfather, Anakin, Darth Vader, and as well as his own mother, Princess Leia. And so he felt, he was already destined down this legacy because of his lineage, and he had to follow in his grandfather's footsteps. However, Rey, she showed the complete opposite, where she doesn't have a family, but that doesn't define her.
Right. And that, I feel, is so much more powerful. It's just so much more powerful. And I think that there are plenty of ways that you could have connected Rey to Palpatine without making it, so dumbed down, without making it so, you're my granddaughter, which is totally out of character for Palpatine.
In the last episode, we were talking about, how do you think Rey and Palpatine are connected? And I had mentioned possibly a clone.
Yeah.
I may have been better with that.
Yeah, I would have been better
ending.
with that. Yeah. She was some kind of experiment. It was already established. It's already established in Star Wars canon that Palpatine has these labs on Jakku.
And he cloned Snoke. And he had already other Snokes in a bubble bath, growing already.
So there were so many ways that you could have done that were more consistent with the character, with the story, with everything.
Yeah.
She could have been a manipulation of the Force, a clone, any one of those things. And then maybe her parents were still drunken traitors or whatever, but when that lab, when Palpatine left and the lab was left in shambles, and then these drunken people took her and tried to sell her, and that would have been so much more exciting, I think, and consistent and powerful than just, and by the way, Palpatine is your grandfather. And it's been done, and this has zero impact on the audience, and I feel like that should tell you everything that you need to know right there. That it was completely unnecessary, and you could have done literally everything else in this movie without that. Exactly. And then that leads to the unnecessarily clunky exposition that was wasted between Rey and Ben, but also between Rey and Palpatine when she ultimately confronts him. What do we know about Palpatine? He's cunning, he's manipulative, he's a genius. I was looking back at the prequels and the ways that he speaks to Anakin. I know maybe not a lot of people like the movies, but that was so solid.
Yeah, that's how you get into somebody's head, their brain.
Yes.
Because apparently, again, in the movie, Palpatine creates Snoke, and then through Snoke, he uses Snoke to get and talk into Ben's head. But again,
his entire life.
Palpatine reveals that he was behind everything, and so the voice in Ben's head, which was supposed to be Snoke or Darth Vader presumably, was actually Palpatine this whole time.
Right.
If you really wanted to convince this kid that to come to the dark side, why do you go through this channel of this Snoke character to only eventually have him be killed by the? It doesn't make any sense.
So Palpatine, who is the one who. Palpatine, the one that Darth Vader tries to kill, who's just, destroyed Vader's life and led him to the dark side and has ruined the lives of the Skywalkers and the universe and for all of these decades, and he's been behind it all, and you finally get to this final confrontation, and Ben is useless. The final Skywalker, who has been recently redeemed, is supposedly part of this dyad, in the Force and all this stuff, gets chucked off a cliff and has nothing to do with the rest of the ending of the movie. So it just, there's no payoff. There's nothing. Everything is clunky, and we're making this decision here and that decision there, and it just felt like a very corporate grab. They took every scene and they took a poll, and they're like, well, this is what we think the majority of our general audience will like. And instead of letting the characters tell the story, instead of this being a character-driven, lore-driven, Star Wars-driven film, this was I don't know what it was, because it didn't make any sense.
I think they sacrificed a great story for fan service because again, there are proper ways to pay off and pay tribute to the fans who have been with you for such a long time, but they didn't do it. In this example, the example that I use is in Avengers Endgame. Again, we had 20 plus movies over 10 years, and during Endgame, and what was the one right before that? Avengers.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so in those movies, they would drop, these jokes or things that these characters had mentioned in the past or, things that they had done in the past or said. And it pays off in such a great story. Here, I feel like they were just either Disney, probably Disney and JJ, but mostly probably Disney. They threw in so much fan service and the new characters and new colors and everything that hey, remember the good stuff or the fun stuff of Star Wars? Look at this shiny thing.
Yeah,
don't really
go
pay
buy it
attention
after.
to this. Yeah, you leave the movie excited for that action scene, but you're not satisfied with the story. And so I think they threw in too much fan service. Endgame, again, they did the perfect example of where they paid tribute to the rest of the movies in the past while telling a productive, great story. And they just flopped on the Rise of Skywalker.
No, they really did. They really did. And, the rumor is that there was a completely different ending that was changed at the last minute. And what the rumors are online is that this ending included, Kylo Ren / Ben Solo being part of that final battle against Palpatine and being alive at the end of all of it and all of that stuff. And I feel like that would have made much more sense. It would have been much more hopeful and it would have left people feeling that you get from Star Wars a whole lot more than what this ended up being, because I feel like maybe they changed it, I don't know, because they took a poll, because some fanboys wouldn't like it, and there's some kind of hidden hatred for the vulnerability that was Ben Solo. We'll get to Ben Solo in a second. We'll get to because I have a lot to say on that. But just wrapping up some Palpatine stuff. They wasted screen time on the exposition, no depth. They didn't utilize the source material that they could have. There's so much source material in exchange for just making stuff up. I'm so angry, James.
Again, there are so many plot holes, and again, like J.J. Abrams, he's a great, and I mean this, positively. He's a great director when it comes to action scenes and fast paced moving around. However, that wasn't what this movie needed.
No.
All this movie had were MacGuffins. You needed to chase this thing to find this object. To get this object, you need to find this person who will tell you how to go to this place. And it was moving so quickly.
The characters are the story.
Yeah.
The characters are the story. And real quick, shout out to my husband. When I left the theater after watching The Last Jedi, I know it wasn't your, the last,
Yeah, Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. When I left the theater after watching The Last Jedi, I loved it so much. I know you didn't, but everybody had a different reaction to it, but I loved it so much because it was so character-centric, and I really felt like the evolution of each character. I felt the evolution of Rey, like the awakening within her, and I felt the evolution of Kylo Ren and how there was this desperate intimacy that was mixed into it, and it was so exciting to think about. But when I walked out of that theater, I'm like, JJ cannot follow this up.
Yeah,
I am going to savor this. I am going to appreciate this perfect movie that I feel like I had, this amazing experience that I'm having right now, because I know for a fact that JJ Abrams is not that brave. He doesn't follow characters. He does a lot of explosions very well. Mm-hmm. He does, like you were saying, the MacGuffin hunting and all of that stuff. But I dare you to go back to any J.J. Abrams movie and really get a sense and feel like you can connect to a character the same way that you would to someone in real life, that they connect to your life and leave your imagination sparkling with all of this emotion. Is just not his bag. Yeah, it's just not his bag. But that's what it needed to be. Now,
as I mentioned before, to be fair a little bit, I mean, there are people that do love this movie. There are people out there that love it, and they're not wrong for loving it.
No,
because again, I think what JJ did and what he's really good at is paying tribute to the original trilogy and the lore, as in, bringing stuff back, not playing with it. So
and putting together a very exciting movie.
Yeah,
sure.
and so there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, my favorite parts about the movie were the Star Warsy parts. Like, because in The Last Jedi, I remember after that movie ended, also very divided, but there's a lot more, I sensed, anger in that divide, a lot more anger of how the direction, in the direction it went. However, in this one, I feel it's either more somber or, like myself, more neutral. It's like, okay, it is what it is. That's not how I saw it or hoped it had gone. But yeah, I do see there's still a divide. But again, there are people who love the Star Warsy stuff, and that's one thing that I appreciated, because again, who doesn't like a good lightsaber battle? Who doesn't like a good, funny C-3PO throwing in his comments and jokes in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciated Poe, everything that they did with Poe.
Poe was the most. Yeah. I think Poe in the Rise of Skywalker was the most fleshed out character. Like Oscar Isaac, he knows who Poe is. Like, he knows how Poe would react in certain situations, and I didn't see that with Finn, unfortunately. One thing I did like about the movie. I know. I'm like, somebody was counting how many times he screamed Rey in that movie. Like, did they give him any other lines in that movie?
And apparently he's force sensitive, and that never gets paid off. And he only uses the force to sense Rey. Yeah. Come on, man.
Rey's in trouble. Rey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, again, I have a whole list of things I like, and a very short list of things, a long list of things I don't like, and a short list of things I do like.
Well, let's do a little bit of what we did like for a minute, just to kind of refresh, and then we'll go down through the rest of it.
Okay. So, for my first thing, I mean, again, out from the beginning, Palpatine's return. There's no explanation. There's no hinting. There's pretty much, they repeated a line in the prequels saying pretty much, the Sith are capable of unique powers, and anything's possible, and that was it. Like, okay, he's back. That's it. No other explanation.
Well, the dark side can lead to powers that some deem to be unnatural, James.
That's it. No other explanation. That's like, okay, that's okay. That's your get out of jail free card.
I did think that it was really cool, the apparatus that was attached to
I thought that was
Palpatine
cool. Visually, I thought it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, visually stunning, visually beautiful. Way to go. Yeah. Perfect. It's just the story stuff is what's killing me. Yeah,
and I felt that Palpatine's return, I felt it undermined, and Disney doesn't think so. They try to explain it with comments afterwards in post, but they didn't believe that Palpatine's return undermines Anakin's redemption back to the light side, Darth Vader's redemption, and the prophecy that he was the chosen one. Because if you're the chosen one to bring balance to the Force, then why is Palpatine back? And so Palpatine's back, so that means you obviously didn't do your job right or whatever. I don't know. So there's that.
Yeah.
Palpatine's plan. So again, if he was behind this whole thing, if he was puppeteering Snoke, and Snoke was the one who created the First Order and this new army, Palpatine's plan was to have a secret second army, the Final Order, to pop out of nowhere. Why have two armies when you have already an army? Like, why do you
already have an army, right? If you were behind Snoke and you were behind this first, well, maybe you were getting your ultimate weapons ready in the dark parts of the universe.
Where do they staff all those new workers? Are they being fed? Are they like what? Like how do you keep all those people secret? Like, I know
those are great questions.
Yeah,
where's the money coming from?
My goodness. If Palpatine wanted, because in the movie, of course, Palpatine, he wanted Rey to strike him down, and so his soul or his being would transfer into her body. All the Sith.
Remember when we had when we were talking about our predictions, and I said, like he wants to possess somebody's body, so that kind of played into it.
See, you were right on that. I didn't think that was going to happen, but that's what I guess his plan was. But why put Rey through all this trouble of finding all these MacGuffins and everything to find you? Don't you want her to find you? Like, why make it easy? Make it hard?
Make it easy.
Yeah,
for her to find you and to come to her, and then let it breathe. Give him time to whisper poison into her ear and to turn her.
Maybe pretend to be Kylo Ren or Ben,
and really mess with her head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
come on, JJ. We just thought about that right now.
That's what I'm saying about Palpatine being out of character. It's like he is the great manipulator, right? And if he's gone through all of this trouble, all of these decades to destroy the Skywalkers, and then to somehow have a progeny floating out in the universe, he would not have. Can you? Okay, real quick.
Yeah.
Really? Palpatine having sex?
Oh, yeah. I don't
With
want
the
to
cackling.
That. Oh, good.
Sorry,
Don't do
I'm
that motion.
sorry.
Don't do that again. Don't do that
It's
again,
just
please.
awful. It's
We
just
got
awful.
demonetized on
I'm
YouTube.
sorry. It's just really, really awful. It's way more likely and way more in character for him to manipulate other people's progeny and to manipulate fetuses and do experiments and the clones. It's like, you don't need your own granddaughter. I don't think that's ever been important.
Yeah. And even and I guess Palpatine's offspring, they didn't. I guess they weren't. I guess the evilness skipped a generation because they went to protect Rey and dump her on Jakku, even though they probably could have dumped her on any other better planet. And so what happened to them? Like, so why did they turn? That's a more interesting story. I want to see that story of people of the actual.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why would you have to sell her to protect her? Couldn't you just leave her there?
Yeah, not tell anyone. Yeah.
So why would you have to sell her? Because you were actually drunk and you wanted, some drinks for the road? It doesn't make any sense, James.
No, it doesn't.
But keep going through your Palpatine stuff.
So, well, I have a whole list of other things unrelated to Palpatine. But I really didn't buy or believe, Ben Solo's turn to the light side. Again, if they had fleshed out the character and instead of like chasing MacGuffins, devote that time to showing more conflict of Ben. Because we really didn't see anything switch until Princess Leia distracted him for a second by... And that's another thing. She died. And I get the whole Carrie Fisher and you're stuck in a box with what to do. But having her... pretty much give her life using all of her energy to die in a second to distract Ben for 1 second so Rey could stab him. Like, that makes no sense. And so
that was really confusing.
And so after that, that's when he switched to the I mean, that's when he started switching to the light side again. It happened very abrupt, just like how quick to anger Rey was. Again, very abrupt and too abrupt for me. I wanted more character development.
So real quick, Ben Solo, as far as you're talking about his journey back to the light side, he has always been, since the first movie, in conflict with the light side of himself.
Yeah.
I think that The Last Jedi did a really good job of setting that up and setting up that tremendous conflict and fleshing it out throughout the entire movie. When Rey rejected him at the end of the last movie, very naturally, I imagine he went back to being supreme leader, and he's like, now I'm just going to be all evil but I think the cracks in his helmet are symbolic of the fact that those cracks will never leave him. He is always going to fight that battle within himself, because of, and now aided by this connection that he has with Rey. And if you really, I think this was well done in The Rise of Skywalker. If you listen to the dialogue between Rey and Kylo, the non-expositionary dialogue, it's like he still wants her by his side. He wants her with him. He thinks the way to do it is to drag her to the dark side because of whatever vision that he had, that apparently Rey also had, and we don't know when. And I thought that would have been really interesting to see too. But I think that, like I predicted, it was his love for Rey that constantly kept him coming back to the light and at least flirting with it. But I agree that it could have been fleshed out more in this movie. There was plenty establishing the fact that he is constantly at war within himself between the light and the dark, for it to have continued into this movie. But instead they just made him like really angry and really hard.
Yeah.
And
the opening scene was fantastic, though. I loved when he was on that planet and in that battle. Like, that's cool, and it showed the rage and the anger. But again, I wanted to see more. I want to see more conflict in this movie. Yeah, we got that in The Force Awakens. We got that in The Last Jedi. I don't feel like we got enough of it to justify his turn. Not enough in this movie. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, there was still an intimacy there, but as far as pushing him to the light, it was more like he had gone the opposite way. Like, he was desperate to pull her into the dark. And he thought that was the only way to do it. And when they were fighting on the remnants of the Death Star, which I felt like they could have done more with also, it was either it felt like they were going to kill each other.
Yeah.
It felt like they were going to kill each other, and it was going to come to an end there, and it didn't feel like consistent.
No.
And then just the death of Leia.
Yeah, that's
And
okay.
let's
get
talk
to that.
about that.
So
Yeah.
again, I understand the limitations with what to do with Leia's character. Obviously, Carrie Fisher, she passed away the year before, and I understand that. But I think when the way that they had her die, again, sacrificing herself, giving all her energy to literally just distract Ben so he could go, what? And then get stabbed by Rey. If she had, again, I understand the limitations, but maybe just a voice, or maybe you have a voice double, and you do that, and you actually, what would have been cool if during mid-battle, like if Leia was able to go into Ben's mind, like to do a freeze frame, and like have a short conversation, like, hey, I'm your mother, I love you, I'm gone, whatever, and trying to bring him back one last time. And then, obviously in real time, it happens in a millisecond, but he comes back out, and then that showed, okay, maybe this isn't the right side for me. And if he had joined Rey, and if he had like switched, like, you know what, I'm gonna switch, I'm gonna help you. That midway through the movie, it would have been funny to see Poe and Finn kind of like, wait a minute, he was just trying to kill us, and Rey's like, no, trust me, like, he's good now. And then seeing them, the trio and Kylo Ren, or Ben at this point, work to defeat Palpatine together, that would have been much more interesting.
It would have been much more interesting and unique, but it felt like every opportunity that J.J. Abrams had to be brave and bold and different and new, they just chose to go in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen more of them working together, more part of the movie, because it would have made more sense. It would have flushed it out a lot more. Also, when she stabs him, you know what else would have been cool? Is if she had Palpatine in her ear. Like, because he had stopped swinging. He had stopped attacking her. And what if Palpatine was in her ear? Like, do it. Exactly. Do it. Do it.
But going back to, really quick, to Carrie Fisher, my thing is that when she did pass away and her body left and entered the Force realm, and they not only, I thought they moved so quickly past her death. Yeah, they had one scene where people were looking at her at the cloth, the remaining cloth.
Semi-sad.
Yeah, but again, given the fact that Carrie had actually died in real life, and Leia, the princess of Alderaan, had passed away, I would have wished JJ would have let that whole scene breathe and let all of us, not only the characters in the movie, but us in the movie theater, have that time to mourn and reflect and appreciate Leia's role, Carrie Fisher's role in this whole thing.
Would you have been okay with all of the extra breathing room in this movie if it meant watching like a 2-hour and 45-minute movie?
Yes, because Avengers Endgame was nearly a 3-hour movie, and that did not feel like a 3-hour movie. It was also very fast paced, but they did it the right way. They had a solid story. They had a solid base story, and they added all this other stuff on there. Here, I think it was missing, and I didn't feel the heart in it. I didn't feel. And again, I know JJ loves Star Wars. Like, he's grown up with it, just like Rian Johnson has, and he has a deep appreciation for it. I just don't think that
No,
he nailed it.
It lacked heart, but there was a whole lot of corporate meddling. You could feel that.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt from this movie. I didn't feel the heart. I didn't feel the love. I didn't feel the hope. I felt corporate decisions.
Yeah.
Left and right. Let's keep going.
The next thing, and these aren't in any specific order, Chewbacca receiving a medal at the very end from Maz Kanata. At the very end, yeah.
Oh, the original medal.
Yeah, the original medal from A New Hope, like the medal that Han Solo and Luke got after they blew up the Death Star and Princess Leia gave them.
The one that Leia was holding when she died.
Yeah, again. But the thing is that we haven't seen that since the first movie, but it's been on the internet. Like, people have been talking about it for like 30 years plus about, hey, why did Han and Luke get a medal and Chewbacca didn't?
Yeah.
So I think that was a direct fan service. Like, hey, you know that thing you were talking about on the internet for so long, that joke that you've been talking about on the internet for so long? Here's that thing. Chewie finally got his medal. Aren't you happy? Like, no. That was so random and out of the blue. And like, yeah, random for Leia to be holding it again. And sure, it may have most likely belonged to Han, but we didn't see that anywhere else, and so she just has it for that scene. Like, do you remember in Solo, the dice? Like the significance of the dice. Like, where's that coming from? Like, why is that so important? We saw it for a split second in the original trilogy, and now it's coming back to have real meaning. Like, no, I didn't like that.
I did like what they did with it in The Last Jedi, though, that it went from hand to hand. It went from Han to Luke to Leia to Ben, and it kind of connected the whole family together. And I think that's a good way of doing that. You know, if you're going to play the fan service card, make it meaningful.
Yeah.
You know, make it like that. But you know what would have been way more meaningful would have been if Chewbacca actually died and Rey was responsible.
Yeah.
That would have been some real stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that was another opportunity that they chickened out on.
It's another thing where, like, that could have been a big movement or big shift in Rey's character, because if she had felt that, oh my goodness, I had killed Chewbacca, maybe I am destined for the dark side, evil. That creates a real tension and real, like, conflict. But after that whole scene, right after that scene, before the reveal, like, or even after the reveal, again, unbeknownst to Rey and the rest, they still think Chewie's gone or dead. They move past it again. They're on to their next adventure, jumping around and running around. Like, wait a minute, let us breathe.
Yeah.
Like I want to see that conflict. Another thing, talking about, things breaking. Luke's lightsaber in The Last Jedi, when Kylo Ren and Rey tear it apart. And then, again, so many things happen off screen in the final movie. They're like, oh, all this happened, catch up. That's another thing. Leia's like, oh, by the way, here's a lightsaber, I fixed it.
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, that's how you bring it back?
And I had a lightsaber, and I trained to be a Jedi, and all of these things. If Luke Skywalker had trained Leia to be a Jedi, then why did Leia not teach her son? Why did Leia send her son away? Why, it just makes her seem like a worse mother than the canon and the background story would have you imagine.
Yeah.
And eventually I want to talk, like, in depth about Ben Solo, but he is a victim, okay? He is a victim in all of this. He did not have the same course that Darth Vader had, where he made every decision himself, and sure, he was manipulated by Palpatine, but he still made every decision himself. Ben Solo did not have that.
No.
Okay? He was, from day one, when he was a feed in his mother's womb, in the belly down here, okay, was being manipulated by the dark side of the Force by apparently what we now know as Palpatine. His entire life, he was separated from his family, and then he, through the actions of Luke Skywalker, was forced to the dark side. And so every step of the way, his weakness was manipulated, and he was forced down this dark path, which is what they're trying to do to Rey, but she's a stronger character, which is nice. But Ben Solo finally comes back to the light. He finally comes back to the light. He is apparently a dyad in the Force alongside Rey, darkness and light or whatever. And 30 seconds after we are introduced to the concept of what a dyad is, it is completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because they both come before Palpatine, and Ben Solo gets chucked off a cliff, and then Rey gets to fight him alone. And suddenly all of the lightning, James, all of the Force lightning that Palpatine is shooting up into the sky to knock down all of these ships is redirected back at Rey, all by herself.
Yeah.
And she holds it off with one lightsaber in one hand, not even with two hands, James, not even with two hands.
She's wicked strong.
In a weakened state, that she is in after the Force dyad was drained of power, and now Palpatine comes to life. It doesn't make any sense. And then suddenly Ben Solo is irrelevant, completely irrelevant. Rey defeats Palpatine, her newly minted grandfather, and Ben, whose life has been manipulated literally since infancy, and his entire family destroyed and manipulated, over decades and generations, has nothing. He gets nothing to do in the final battle against Palpatine. There's no Anakin Force Ghost. There is no full circle when it comes to Skywalker. And then, don't even get me started on the kiss and then him dying. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. And then at the very end, he's just completely meaningless, and Rey takes the name Skywalker because she thinks it's pretty.
Yeah. And
she's just suddenly more important, and it has nothing to do with the Skywalkers. So I don't understand.
No.
I just don't understand any of it. It doesn't make any thematic sense. It doesn't make storytelling sense. We were talking about this a little bit earlier before we started recording, that a good story follows the characters. That is the basics of storytelling. You create, their conflicts and their personality, and then you let them go and you follow them, and that's what makes a good story. But here it was so hodgepodge. It was so weird and inconsistent that it killed it for me, James. It killed it. It just completely killed it for me. What do you think?
What do I think?
About the Skywalkers.
I mean, and my whole thing is that, yeah, I feel like not only was Star Wars not given the proper ending to this whole saga, I don't think the Skywalkers family name was given, a proper ending. And I don't like that the Rey did. I understand I understand the reasoning behind, her adopting a Skywalker name because, Luke had trained her and she has that connection with Ben Solo or, the Skywalker lineage. But I would have preferred if she had kept the Palpatine name, and I'm Rey Palpatine, and my lineage does not define me, and that would have been a proper message. Like, she had thought she was nobody, but then she turns out to be one of the biggest somebodies out there. But she's not forced to follow in the path of Palpatine, just like Ben wasn't forced to follow in the path of Vader.
Right.
Yeah, and so I thought that I didn't like that she adopted his name. At the very end, also, that side character, like, who are you? Rey. Rey who? Like, who are you? Like,
who are you?
Who are you? Get out of here.
Person.
You don't ask people. That's kind of rude. It was so weird. And after there are things that happened in this movie that just didn't make sense. Just because, just for example, after she buried Luke's and Leia's lightsaber on Tatooine, she pulls out her own lightsaber and lights it just to show it's yellow.
It's yellow.
Like, who's that for? Like, who are you showing that for? You're showing it
to
for
the
audience. But there's no character reason for that.
Yeah.
There's no reason in that moment for that. And so
no, there isn't. And I really think that it was the worst possible ending for the character of Rey. If you know about the character of Rey, because what has Rey wanted since the very beginning, since we first met her in The Force Awakens?
Family, belonging, a sense of connection, and to escape her past and all of those things. And what does she get? She gets that sense of belonging. She gets that connection. She has a soulmate. She is connected to the Force and this new Resistance family. But more than anything, I think that this connection that she has with Ben is so powerful, and it's so deep, and it's soulmate level. It's Force level. I think there's a galactic force or a universal force. I forget the levels of the Force, but it's that big. It's up there. And to have that snatched away after one kiss, to have that snatched away, boom, he's dead. And if you know anything about Force dyads or Force bonds, once that person is gone, you are left with a gaping hole. So we come to the end of her saga here, and she is more alone than she was when we first met her. Her soulmate is dead. She has a gaping darkness in her soul, and she's alone on a sandy place. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen at the very
just
end.
Kill me now.
I would have liked. I mean, we all know, Finn and Poe are still there with her. Chewie's still there, but I would have liked at the very end. Again, after she buried the lightsabers, and then talk to that random lady, and then have Finn or Poe hey, come on, Rey, let's get out of here, or whatever. And then okay, at least she has somebody to go back to, and then she has her friends with her.
But this ending made it seem like she was so alone, and just
but she smiled at the end. That
doesn't make any sense. No, that's the kind of crazy smile that you give before you kill yourself. It's just no, it just left me feeling super depressed, honestly. Just thinking about that left me feeling super depressed, because she says earlier in the movie, in this same movie, everyone thinks that they know who I am, but they don't, except the one person that she is connected to through the Force, who has this deep intimacy and understanding of her, and they are both part of the same entity. And now she's alone. She's even more alone than when we found her at the beginning of The Force Awakens. And that killed me, James. That killed me.
Yeah.
And everyone that I talked to on the theater on the way out, they're like, why didn't they let Ben live? They could have let Ben live. That's all I heard, honestly. Yeah. I'm not making that up because I love them so much.
Everybody lifted me on their shoulders. And
they're like,
okay,
why'd they kill him?
Yeah.
Why'd they kill him?
And for that too, again, we've talked about this before. I didn't really see a romantic relationship. I felt more with brother sister, that kind of soulmate bond. And so at the very end, when they did kiss, I thought, this is obviously before he died, but when they kissed, I thought, okay, that's just for the fan service. Again, I didn't see that development. And then when they died, I was like, okay, that was definitely for fan service for the Reylos out there. Because again, I don't think JJ was fully on that ship also. Of like, obviously because Ben died. But I think he just threw in so many things that he thinks Star Wars fans or Reylo fans wanted to see. Like, okay, we'll give them what they wanted, but I wanted him to die anyway.
For 30 seconds, I didn't want it. No, and for destroying that connection, no, I didn't want it. I would have rather them not kiss and him live.
Yeah.
And then I can write the fan fiction later.
Or you can still write it. You could be like, an hour later, Ben's like, oh, where's Rey? I'm going to go find her. And then like,
or, when Leia dies, right? And she's just waiting around for her son to die, too, apparently, before she disappears. How about she was waiting around to save him because she knew that he was going to die.
Or right when like her body like disappears, he comes back to life,
right?
Because she uses like again the last. I mean, she's still out there in the Force.
Of her first power.
Yeah. And so that would have been
would have been great.
We're spitting this out right now. You could have.
That would have been great. A pair of
Okay, but let me ask you this: How do you respond? How do you respond to people who say you're just being a fanboy or fangirl? You just wanted things your way, and you didn't get it your way or exactly your way, and so that's why you didn't like the movie. How do you respond to that?
I think that's just no. That's just no, because we are all Star Wars fans. We all love the movies for different aspects, but mostly because of how it makes us feel, right? And because of that inspiration and that hope. And I understand that I'm not always going to get what I want, in the film, and I'm totally okay with that. I would have swallowed most everything else in this movie, but it just feels like this part of it was so important. The Skywalker part, the Ben Solo part of it was so important, and that connection, and they made that important as a part of this trilogy. That to kill that in that way, it just hurts, it hurts. It doesn't leave you with that hopeful feeling that you were hoping for. And it's okay for everyone to feel the way that they feel. You know what I mean? It's still a entertaining movie. Yeah. It's still an entertaining movie. But I don't not like it only because I didn't get my Reylo kiss. Is because we care about these characters. We care about this story, and we care about the lore and the theology of it. We care about everything that Star Wars is, that is so much more than just entertaining movies. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what I would say to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Again, like, and you were talking about it from a storytelling point of view. The storytelling wasn't great. And there are people that do like, from what I've heard, review wise of other people reviewing it. Like, there are people that weren't terrible, great fans of the story, but they like the Star Wars aspect of it. They like the fun, the adventure, and part of Star Wars is that adventure and going out there and doing this crazy stuff. But yeah, I think the original trilogy, they had, again, and everyone's saying, they didn't, like the original trilogy wasn't planned out. They didn't know when they made part 1 that they were going to make 2 and 3 at that time, now 5 and 6. And over here, but I think if Disney is undertaking such a big thing and they're saying this is the culmination of the Skywalker story and legacy, then they should have had things planned out better. You don't have to have the scripts out there perfectly, but at least know where the arc's going, where the story's going, where you want it to end. And I feel like nothing was planned. Right.
You got to know what the important things are to wrap up, to bring full circle. Yeah. And when you put Skywalker in the title, and this entire trilogy of trilogies is about the Skywalker lineage in one way or another, then don't you think that the last remaining Skywalker should be a really big part of that? Yeah. And I think that...
And I thought The Rise of Skywalker was pertaining, and maybe it still is pertaining, but pertaining to more Ben. Because, again, the redemption. And...
Right. And I think that there are ways that you could have kept him alive and still wrapped it up neatly. I felt like the death was really forced because they wanted to end it. They're like, this is the end of the Skywalker story, and we want to make it, as neat and, as neat and as possible. But what they did was they killed all hope.
Yeah.
He is hope. You know what I mean? Like, the Skywalkers are hope. And he killed the ability of fans to imagine and to continue the story in their minds, in their hearts, and all of that stuff. Like, you have to leave something for the fans. You really do. And I think that it's not only the Reylos that love Ben Solo. I mean, he's the most popular character of this entire new trilogy.
I had seen a meme talking about how Adam Driver needs emergency back surgery for carrying the last trilogy. Like Ewan McGregor carried the prequels. Like, exactly. Adam Driver needed back surgery for carrying it. Okay, but we've been railing on the Rise of Skywalker for 50 minutes now.
Yeah.
Let's end on things that we liked.
You know what? I liked 80% of this movie, James. It was the 20% that kind of just killed it for me.
Yeah.
But everything else was... It was entertaining. It was visually stunning. It was fun. It was funny. I really loved, like, Slutty Poe.
Yeah,
like, trying to get with the what's her name?
Yeah, even that character too. Like, talking about things we disliked, that character was not needed. Only to give him a little more backstory of Poe. And again, I feel like Poe was still the most developed character in that movie.
I really feel like Poe and Finn should have been the one to kiss, because that was another cowardly decision. I'm sorry. They had, the women kissing in the background, and they're like, look, hey, we gave you this kiss.
Really quick. I've seen this discussion also. Do you think there was any romantic... I know online there was a lot of talk about Poe and Finn liking each other, and they're friends clearly in the movies, but like, did you see a romantic angle to that? Because I don't see these romantic... I mean, I know in Star Wars there are romantic angles, but I just didn't see that for...
I saw a very close friendship that could have been a lot more, because Poe's character just seems like he swings every which way. And
like Lando Calrissian. And I think in such a large galaxy far, far away, those kinds of things shouldn't matter. No, because I think, if anything, I thought Finn was attracted or had a crush or liked Rey more than anything, and that's what I saw more than Ben or Kylo liking but that relationship between him and Rey. If anything, I saw, again, even in this movie, when they were sinking in the quicksand, Finn was saying, Rey, I've never told you, or I needed to tell you, and then they get sucked in. And then right after that, they're like, oh, what are you gonna say? It's like, oh, not in front of Poe, and like, What other thing would you have said other than "I love you"? You weren't gonna. And J.J. Abrams said, "Oh, he was just gonna tell her that he was force sensitive." No, that makes no sense. No one's gonna be dying and like, "Hey, by the way, I'm talented." They're not gonna do that. They're not. I'm gifted also.
You shout at as you're dying.
And that was dropped immediately afterwards. And again, to go back to Finn and Poe. I'm not sure about them having to be gay for any other reason, but I didn't see that. Again, online, I saw the hype or the people wanting it to happen, but I didn't see that relationship.
I felt the possibility, and I feel like it was even set up in this movie, the way that they were kind of bickering back and forth like a couple, and Poe being insulted, like, what were you going to tell her? What were you going to tell her, huh?
Yeah.
That you like her and not me? Like, it felt like that.
I saw more bickering between Poe and Rey, and I think that bickering was supposed to show the off-screen growth that they all had. Like, oh, they're comfortable about each other. Yeah. They're more like, they can poke and jab each other.
Sure, that was well done.
And so I saw that. Okay, but let's back to the things we liked. So I liked when the trio were working together.
Yeah.
On their adventures, even though they're on MacGuffin chasing hunts, that was still fun to see them all, banter going back and forth. I loved C-3PO. Like, he was the funniest he's ever been. Yeah. And that I enjoyed. I could have watched him, crack a few more jokes.
I liked what they did with Leia, with the found footage of Leia. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they did as well with it as they could have, I think, at least in the first half of the movie. Uh-huh. The death, I think, leaves a lot wanting. I think they could have done that better. Yeah. But everything else, in the beginning when she's like, coordinating everybody, and I think they did a really good job using that footage and making her feel real, like she was there.
I wish, just being about Leia, and I remember her passing back Luke Skywalker fixed lightsaber to Rey. I would have loved to have seen her again. We're all hoping or kind of predicting that since Rey uses that bow staff, they would have made like a double-sided lightsaber. Yeah. And what they could have done, hear me out. So what they could have done with that split lightsaber, the Luke one, use the Kyber crystal and make a double lightsaber that can kind of like Darth Maul, but can detach. Yeah, and then maybe at the very end, Rey and Ben work together. She's like, here's my lightsaber, here, catch. Right. And then they both work together to defeat Palpatine.
That would have been awesome, James. Come on, JJ.
I know.
For the love of
Yeah,
Criminy.
I did like even though we didn't see Anakin Skywalker, we did hear his voice. We heard Mace Windu.
Yeah.
We heard Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, and the rest of the Jedi.
What did Anakin say? I didn't catch that.
They're pretty much, they're all, kind of saying, come join. I forget exactly what they're saying, but they're encouraging her to, accept the Jedi and whatever. And that's when she said,
I would have liked to have seen them.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen the Jedi behind her, like we saw all the Sith. Like, I would have liked more than just to hear them.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen them. And I would have liked for both Rey and Ben to have been there, and the Force Ghosts to have their hands on their shoulders and stuff like that. Because what's the point of having a dyad if it's not going to matter 30 seconds later? But anyways, yes, I would have liked to have seen the ghosts.
Okay, well.
Anything else? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. After The Last Jedi, I was open to like, okay, I guess anything can happen now. So going into The Rise of Skywalker, I love Star Wars. I'm always pumped for it, but there was a little part of me that was like, okay, well, we'll just see what happens. And I left very neutral. So it's not the note that I wanted to leave the Skywalker or the Star Wars saga with. It gives me more appreciation for the original trilogy. And those still rank up there. I'm still excited for other Star Wars shoot-offs and spin-offs, like The Mandalorian.
Yes.
We'll talk about that later. We've run out of time. But the Mandalorian, and you mentioned it too, it makes you feel like you're watching Star Wars for the first time again. And I'm looking forward to that. And so I'm not sure if they should do more movies with, spin-offs with Kylo, or no, not Kylo, with Rey or with Finn and Poe. That's up to them. But
I'm disappointed that this is how they decided to end the trilogy.
Yeah.
I think they make it really difficult for fans to imagine a hopeful continuation of that universe. However, I think that there are some things that we, like fan fiction writers or fans, can maybe look to. There might be some wiggle room for Ben Solo coming back. It could be that he is trapped in the world between worlds, which is something that was introduced in the Clone Wars, I believe. And that it might have connection to Exegol. Those are just some of the theories that people are throwing around online, that they're on Exegol, that the Sith would drill down into the planet because they were looking for the opening to the world between worlds, and maybe Leia did use her final energy to put him there, so that Rey can go on an adventure later and find him and bring him back. It's a real big stretch. But hey, it's fun to maybe write that.
And if you write that, I'll read it.
Okay.
And we'll share it too.
Yeah.
What did you think? Have you seen The Rise of Skywalker? Have you seen The Rise of Skywalker? What do you think? Did you like it? Did you not? I know that there are people also divided on this one. I don't get as much. I'm not sensing as much anger for anger reaction.
More
for this
sadness.
One. More sadness. more sadness. More somber. More neutral.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think? Please comment. We'll try to respond. We're on Twitter. If you haven't followed us anywhere, you can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, Hub on Hollywood. You can listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple iTunes, YouTube, of course.
Yeah, like, share, comment. We will comment back and love you forever.
Yes. All right, well.
This has been our very long Rise of Skywalker reaction video.
We'll be back next week, more cheerful, and I think after we've seen new movies and reviewed them, we'll talk about movies that we like. I'm gonna see Little Women.
You're gonna be back, James.
I'm gonna be back. Yeah, that's right. So
what's happening next week, James?
You are giving birth.
That is right.
To your own future Jedi.
That's right. My little Jedi number 2 is coming next week, so you might see me on Skype, or in some other capacity.
Yeah. But we'll be back.
We will be back.
Yes.
The Hub on Hollywood is not going anywhere, just like our love for Star Wars, which will live on no matter what.
No matter what. Well, thank you for tuning in this week, and we'll see you soon.